Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt Francesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, HighLift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. Well, hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with me, Matt Francesco. And I've humbled myself and put my readers on so I could actually see my notes for once. So anyway, I know we're coming into the spring season here and, a lot of new concerns. And, one thing that I think every shop owner and most listeners know hearing this is we are now driving computers on wheels. Vehicles are getting much, much more complex. And I think as a result, there's a lot more challenges for shop owners as they start to try to navigate repairing cars properly. So I actually have a really, really unique guest. We did a pre-call last week and her knowledge just kind of blew me away. And I like to talk to people that when I come out of the conversation, I'm smarter, and she is definitely one of those. So I've got Pam Oakes with me today. She's an SME consultant in automotive app engineering and business intelligence. And I could go through her whole resume and we take the whole 30 minutes to do that. But she has 30 years of experience as an automotive applications engineer. She's a course developer instructor, and she was a shop owner too. So she understands, all the nuances the shop owners out there deal with. She's been an instructor, proctor, and then she's also been a business expert and strategist. So I guess you started your business about 20 years ago. So you've got plenty of experience on that end. And she's been a syndicated radio host, a media commentator, automotive author. I mean, we could just go on, but I think the best part she has on her little bio is, and she still turns wrenches for fun. So yes. I think that's awesome. So Pam, welcome to Your Business, Your Life.
Thank you. Appreciate being with you today.
I've been really looking forward to this all day because this is, I know when we did our pre-call, I was all energized after we got done. So she's a ball of energy and she's passionate about what she does. So let's just kind of jump into it because, I mentioned, vehicles have become much, much more complex now, especially you've got the complexities of ADAS, and the collision industry has challenges with that. And so I wanted you to explain, because I think some of the things that you said really resonated with me. And I think shop owners need to hear this stuff. Explain what some of these challenges are and what the ramifications can be for body shops if they're not following proper protocol.
It's big. It really is. And, we were talking earlier about Neil Tyson deGrasse, where he said, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And this is where it's not only just for collision, but also repair shops. You gotta know. And how you learn is through training. I can't emphasize training enough. It doesn't matter if definitely ADAS, Advanced Driver Assist Systems. But I mean, even an ABS issue, software issue, okay, can shut down ADAS.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And a BEV, and a battery electrified vehicle.
Right.
Even emissions, even a couple of the Europeans that we came across this summer, they had an emission issue. One of them happened to be a Mercedes. And the lambda sensor, the O2 sensor, lambda sensor,
right,
that was damaged during the accident. Well, they didn't pick it up. The body shop didn't pick it up.
Oh boy.
And whatever they drove over or whatever. And needless to say, they fixed the vehicle. No ADAS. Why? Because of the sensor. Oh yeah.
Wow.
So you think you know, but you don't know. And I have so much to learn myself, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But the body shops and the repair shops, they have to commit to training.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're doing this online. Mainly online is going to be their most economical way to do it.
Right.
Because it's extremely expensive, A, to get that tech out of the shop and send them somewhere to train.
Right.
And B, lose that person in the shop when they need them to be repairing the vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's twofold. So even though in person is best,
correct,
any knowledge is good knowledge, right?
Right.
So we need to get them trained. And it doesn't matter if it's an hour training or if it's reading white papers. I love to read white papers. I'm touched anyway.
That's okay. That's okay.
I mean, I just love it. It's like, oh, look at this, and look at, I tell my husband, I go, oh, look at this. And we were talking about this weekend. I saw something else. And he just looked at me, and he's in the automotive industry too. And he just rolls his eyes. He says, it's the weekend.
That's right. Yes.
But you need to be educating yourself to stay profitable in the bay tomorrow. And the worst thing that a technician can ever experience is working on a vehicle and not being familiar, not knowing. They
Right.
get very frustrated.
Yeah.
And so at that point, they're throwing their hands up. They get in their head, everything just crashes right there. How do I fix this? Well, we fix this through knowledge. We're going to have to step back and take a look at the vehicle because no two vehicles are alike.
Right.
They used to come off the assembly line, it was a Buick LeSabre, Buick LeSabre, Buick LeSabre, all the same, right? Nowadays, it's a little bit different. Even though you have two twin, we'll say Malibus,
Hmm.
okay? Even though they come off bumper to bumper off the line, they're still a little different, right?
Oh, right.
Something
Okay.
could have happened, something
Yep.
not quite right. We have the human and we have the mechanical, the machine learning technology now bound together.
Right.
Something may not have happened, even though they go through and they'll check every 25th car, most manufacturers, to reset if needed. It's the car between number one and number 25.
Yeah.
So never take it for granted that, oh, I just did a Malibu in the Bay last week. It's going to be the same car.
Okay.
Part two of this is not so much for the repair shops, but the body shops.
Hmm.
They're seeing the 2025s, the 2024s, the 2023s, where the repair shops aren't because they're still under warranty.
Right.
But when it gets into an accident and you're doing body repair, that's not warranty. So then that group specifically needs to be getting on the ball and really hitting the books.
Right. A lot of the shops that I work with, a lot of them, they really have a motto. They want to repair vehicles properly. That's what
Mhm.
differentiates them. But yet, a lot of times what they're doing is they're saying, okay, I'm going to go onto the OE website and that'll give me all the information that I need. Is that enough or do they need more than that?
The OE website does not give them all the information that they need. I mean, it's there,
Hmm.
but you have to know where to dig to
Ah,
find it all.
gotcha.
For an example, if a vehicle's been in an accident before, and this is across the OE board, before you perform ADAS calibration, recalibration, the vehicle needs to be aligned.
Right. Right.
And if you go through the different manufacturers, for example, Stellantis
Hmm.
says nothing in there whatsoever. But I got the email from Stellantis Engineering saying, oh, yes. And we had to dig to find it.
Oh,
Again, where is this located? I wish they had everything more uniformed in all the OE sites, but they don't, unfortunately.
right.
There you go, going through training and knowing, hey, this has to be done.
Okay.
So we have that technician who's trying to do a calibration, recalibration, an ADAS calibration, recalibration, and they didn't align it. And they think everything's the way it's supposed to be. And it goes out the door and they get in an accident
Hmm.
because it's not dead on.
Right.
Okay. Thrust could be off a degree, and depending upon how it got hit, where it got hit, everything. So then you have the attorneys,
Yeah.
those national attorneys coming in,
Right.
and what do they want? They want the money, right?
Uh-huh.
So they're going after the other car or whatever. And then they find out that the vehicle had just been in an accident or had recently been aligned or had been recently no alignment and an ADAS calibration recalibration.
Hmm.
So then they go knocking on the door at the shop saying, tell me what you did. Let me see your paperwork. Who's performing this calibration recalibration?
Right.
They're going to really pick. And we don't want any shop's name to go below defendant. He had it on there, right? Below
Right.
that first line.
Right.
How are they going to protect themselves? Part two after training is certification. ASE is the only body out there that provides certification. All the others, and they'll tell you right up front, they're called recommendations. This is a recommendation.
Okay.
They're not certified. ASE, what they do is they proctor a test. Now they have it that you can do research at home under certain conditions,
Okay.
but they have it in a setting. It's a proctored test. And what they're doing is they're taking that specific technician, whether it be automotive, collisions in there,
Hmm.
or one of the advanced L4 ADAS, that's in there, or truck, medium heavy duty truck, for an example.
Right.
They have school bus and others as well. But they're taking that knowledge, and that technician is showing their proficiency in that element.
Oh.
And they either pass or fail.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They can't poke over and say, hey, could you help me out here? I mean, there's none of that.
Right.
They're taking what's in their brain and they're answering the question. They're
Wow.
showing their proficiency to pass and move forward.
Right.
So that's another thing that, you know, if for whatever reason a lawsuit would come about, they're going to ask if they're ASE certified.
And it's interesting because iCar, of course, the shops strive for gold and platinum iCar. And I know you've expressed concerns with it. And again, I think as we're seeing the mechanical and the collision ends really start to come
Well,
together. But I get pushback from owners that say, well, I've got iCar Platinum. I mean, why do I need the ASE? That's for mechanics. What would you say to that?
that's incorrect because iCar is recommendation. They even say that in their materials, recommendation. ASE, Automotive Service Excellence, is certification. They're
Okay.
certifying you that
Okay.
you know it. I took iCar classes
Hmm.
and I was binge watching Law and Order while I was doing the classes.
Oh, wow.
You can't do that with ASC.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I know this, I know that, I know this, and
Yeah.
what are they doing now
Right.
on
Right.
TV, and you just keep on going.
Yeah.
ASC, no,
Right.
you're answering that question.
Right. And listen, I'm not trying to disparage iCar.
No,
iCar is very
I'm not saying
critical,
that.
but there's another aspect to it, especially when you get into the mechanical end, because, people ask me all the time, I dented my bumper. Why is it costing me $3,500 to replace a whole bumper? And I tell them, just from what I've learned in this industry, is because there's too many moving parts. And it's not like,
Literally.
yeah, they really are. And it's not like the old days where you take a plunger and pop the dent out. You can't do that anymore, right? Because everything's communicating with everything else. And I was listening, I think it was maybe at a CIC conference where a lot of the sensors and technologies, like, they have the ones that can detect a child. And they're trying to refine this down to get a closer parameter. But I know we talked a little bit about just even how the sensors are reading stuff and how that cannot
Mhm.
always be the most accurate thing out there. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that
Sure.
was something that really kind of blew my mind.
It's funny that you brought that up because we had a conversation with one of our SAE meetings about this last week, I think it was
Okay.
now. But real quick, just so you know that SAE and iCar, they're starting to talk with each other.
Oh, good. Okay.
They're starting to bond with each other.
Mhm.
So this is a very, very, very good thing in the industry.
Yes.
But we need to up the games here to make sure that the guys and girls are comfortable while they're repairing the vehicle. They know,
Right.
they're confident,
Uh-huh.
and they're certified.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about identification. I'll get back on that.
That's
Sorry,
right.
I just
Yeah.
had to point that out that they just recently kind of bonded. But
Well,
anyway,
and that's a good thing. Yes.
very good thing. The identification. So, everybody thinks that we're going to have the autonomous car in 5 years,
Right.
and we're not going to have it in 5 years. There's too much machine learning. You hear this AI, AI, AI. HAL 9000 from 2001, Space Odyssey was AI.
Right.
He would yes and no, maybe, and Dave, I'm not opening up the hatch.
Right.
Sorry, go away, right?
Right.
That's AI. He was making his decisions based on what he learned.
Mhm.
Now, with that being said, we have to teach the vehicle objects,
Right.
object identifications.
Correct.
And they're doing this through machine learning. So, for an example, um, it's twofold. They have what they call dual twin. Even M-City has dual twin now, which is kind of neat.
Hmm.
But they have dual twin. And so they are uploading how I'm driving, how you're driving, how everybody's driving. And the OE that you're driving is uploading that information and they're sticking your driving habits in a simulated vehicle under different types of weather conditions, road, everything.
Hmm.
And it's learning this aspect because you got to remember, we're just not going to go all of a sudden level 5 autonomous.
Right.
These vehicles are going to have to interact with you and me driving
Hmm.
our vehicles and doing stupid human things like grabbing for coffee.
Yes.
You
Right.
know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's got to learn all this.
Yeah.
In part two of this, it's got to learn what's around them. Okay.
Right.
So they're identifying objects. And one that I like that I created for one of my presentations, I have a chimpanzee in a pink tutu riding a bike in a crosswalk.
Okay.
Now, will our autonomous vehicle hit this object?
Right.
Going through the machine learning, we taught the chimpanzee shape,
Right.
everything, the tutu, the pink tutu, and the bike, and a bunch of other objects,
Hmm.
but we didn't blend them all together.
Right.
So it's going to think it's an entity. Yeah, it's likely it's going to run into it
Right.
because it doesn't identify it. And what we were talking about last week in one of my meetings is that they're starting to concentrate more now on animal shapes,
Okay.
animal identifications.
Right.
So the vehicle learns these shapes.
Yeah.
It's just learning. I mean,
Yeah.
this is quadrillions upon quadrillions upon quadrillions. This isn't going to happen in 5 years. This is
Right.
going to take time. So we were talking about the woman who unfortunately got killed in Phoenix a few years back with that Audi. She
Yeah.
was cutting between two cars.
Right.
And so where they learned the entire human shape,
Hmm.
it didn't understand the half of a human.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It picked up motion and everything like that. I mean, there's just all this machine learning that needs to be done before everybody's driving around like
Right.
the Jetsons.
Yeah, I remember a story. This was, I think, a few years ago where a couple was killed in an autonomous driving car, and there was a emergency vehicle that was blocking the road because there was an accident or something was going on. But because of the way the emergency vehicle was sitting, the autonomous vehicle didn't recognize it, and they went right into it. And so I can see where that happens.
And
You would have to simulate all of these different, not only just images, but positioning of all of them just to get it to
positioning
work properly, you know?
combinations. Yes, it's
Oh, exactly. Uber was
big
trying to
task.
test their autonomous vehicles. They were working in conjunction with Carnegie Mellon University out of Pittsburgh. So they were utilizing
Mhm.
Pittsburgh to try to test these vehicles because you got to understand Pittsburgh. Like nobody could drive in Pittsburgh. I mean, first off, it's not a grid. It's
Yeah,
got to navigate between rivers and mountains and all that. There's weird rules. We call the Pittsburgh left. So there's like this unwritten rule that if you're coming in, you're going to make a left-hand turn. Out of courtesy, the car that's coming forward will like wave you on, right? Which is that's not how we're taught to drive,
no,
right? Yeah.
right.
There's all these weird little nuances that can happen out there. I mean, it's going to take decades to try to teach machines to understand all of these things.
And then we have the part two is the aftermarket car.
Ah, right.
A
Okay.
lot of us have antiques.
Yes.
We're not giving up our antiques. No
Mm-mm.
way.
Nope.
And they're going to have to coexist with level 3, level 4, and a light level 5.
Hmm.
Okay. Even though between level 3 and level 4, you're supposed to still be able to take over if needed. People
Right.
have to remember that. This is not fully function autonomous driving. When that light kind of dims off the dash and pulsates, you better take over. The little green light bar in
Mm.
the GMs, you better take over.
Okay.
Okay. So it's going to have to coexist with these antiques. So what are we going to do later on?
Hmm.
So there's companies out there that are performing aftermarket studies and they're installing aftermarket components on quote unquote volunteer test vehicles. We happen to be one of them here in Tampa.
Oh, really?
And basically, in this one, it was picking up pedestrians
Hmm.
and streetcars, AEB, automatic emergency braking,
Hmm.
and I think that was, oh, wrong way driver. And when something would occur, we had antenna on top of the vehicle,
Hmm.
and we had a module in the back, and they fed it through the body control module, certain aspects, and we had a specialized rear view mirror.
Okay.
So if somebody was equally equipped of the 1,000 to 1,100 cars, maybe 4 or 5 cars in front of us, and they hit the brake card, on the mirror, you'd get this ping. I mean, a very audible ping, and it would show that there was an event coming up.
Okay.
Okay, so the vehicles were what they call B2B, vehicle to vehicle.
Okay.
Okay, and then for an example, you were driving downtown and you were going to turn right, and there's a streetcar. We have streetcars here,
Hmm.
and there's a streetcar there. Another ping. Now we have V to X, vehicle to everything.
Hmm.
So they were communicating. It was recognizing. Same
Okay.
thing with pedestrians, so on and so forth.
Right.
So they're going to have something. So when these two worlds come together, it's homogenous. It's going to blend, like you were saying.
Right.
So that's out there as well. There's so much going on. There's so many opportunities
Hmm.
out there for technicians or whomever want to get into advanced driver assist systems. So many opportunities.
Right.
And right now is the ground floor. It's perfect time.
It's interesting because I've interviewed a number of people, and I'm sure in the mechanical space, it's like this is like this in every trade is the talent shortage. Like nobody can find talent. And I think that's something that's not really being promoted within schools with young people, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of great ground floor opportunities in whether it's collision, whether it's an ADAS, whether it's in any, mechanical repair, any of these things. And this isn't like, I was telling the guy before that I have a client of mine who was telling me when he first decided he was going back and forth between collision repair and HVAC. And when he decided on collision repair, his parents told him, "Why do you want to be a grease monkey?" All right. It's like a mentality that sat in his head. Okay. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of shop owners and a lot of kids that would, maybe won't consider doing this type of work because of the connotation of it. But we're dealing with computer systems.
and you know what? This is what the next generation coming up, taking our places who are retiring
Right.
out of it. There's more modules on the average sedan today than were on the space shuttle.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
So, therefore, yes, today's technicians are rocket scientists.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when somebody says that, hey, wait a minute, you know, it's
Right.
just not turning wrenches. There's a lot more to it. I
That's
am, in essence, a rocket scientist, right?
right.
That's what they need to be saying.
I completely agree with you. One thing, it's funny, like even in my business, like I've been hiring some young people, and it's amazing to me because I've been doing this for 20 years and I've got a great knowledge base, but sometimes you get locked into a certain way of thinking. And it's amazing how these young people now are like, well, we could do it this way and it would be a lot more effective. And I'm thinking, wow, like, why didn't I think of that? And I think young people can do that. And I think, but as an owner, we can't let our own thinking, keep us stuck, that we need to expand and allow these young techs to kind of go with things and learn and be able to bring stuff to us. It could be a whole new way of doing business.
Exactly. What we're talking about here is all public perception.
Right.
We break that public perception barrier,
Hmm.
The rest is grading.
Yeah, exactly.
It
I,
really is. It's
I
public perception. We have to get that grease monkey mentality. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Out of the public perception.
It's like I said, I mean, people don't understand, they get their repair bill and they're going, what? Why is this so much? And then they're blaming it on the shop owner when they don't
Mhm.
realize how complex it really is. And that's where
Yeah.
education, I think, comes into the public. I mean, one of the things I always say is that I don't want to see the collision industry, and I don't want to see even the mechanical repair industry become the Walmarts and the Home Depots of the world, because you know what they're doing? They're just cranking stuff out like lowest cost. Let's just move them in, move them out. And I think the independent shop can thrive doing the
Oh,
right
yeah.
things, but you've got to get educated and you've got to be committed to doing the right things, and getting the right people in there.
Oh, definitely. I had my own shop for 20 years. I started it myself.
Hmm.
And after 20 years, it was part of my 20-year plan. I sold it at 20 years because I knew I wanted to go into other aspects of the industry.
Right.
And needless to say, everybody in that shop, all the techs, and sometimes support personnel in there as well, they wanted to go to the class.
Yeah.
They wanted to go, and we'd go in a group after work.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we couldn't really change or do anything like that. And everybody else in the room was like that too. But I mean, it was always that core group that went.
Right.
And we were constantly updating, constantly reading. We had library, you have these bookshelves you can go over at Staples or wherever. I mean, we had 4 or 5 of them just filled with books and everything like that, and classes that we took
Right.
and things that we collected for reference, even.
Right.
So,
And
education.
education, and I think collaboration too. I mentioned to you about our collision cocktail hour, and that's a lot of what it
Mhm.
really is about, shop owners getting together and collaborating. We talked about this about, when you go to the conference, where's the real magic happen? It happens at the bar after all the
Yeah.
breakout sessions, right? But why? Because we're collaborating now. It's not like we're doing just the classroom learning. We're now going and getting together and saying, hey, I really like this. And the guy's like, well, I've implemented this. And then that's where the real magic starts to happen. And I think collaboration is
Sure.
also a big thing. I'm a firm believer that as the tide rises, all the ships rise. And we've got to get out of this little, out of the scarcity mentality that, oh gosh, if I do this with this guy or I work with, that he's going to take away from me. And I don't believe that's
Yeah.
not how things work.
No. If I may say too, is that when you go searching for training, especially online, look for qualified sites.
Yes.
Don't
Okay.
go on YouTube and go Joe Schmo tree. And this is how we hack through this, and you don't have to do that. And no,
Right.
qualified sites, sites that you know per manufacturer or per tier one qualified sites. I want to mention that. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great point because I know I'll go to fix my toilet and I'll be looking at YouTube videos and I'll watch one and then I'll watch a second one and it tells me a completely different way of doing it.
And some of these vehicles now will electrocute you.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know,
Yeah,
they'll
now you've
drop
got a
you like
health
that.
hazard, right? I know, exactly. So it's pretty crazy. So I think, as good as technology can be, we still have to have the human element in it.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. I argue with my wife about that. She's like, "Oh, machines are going to take over everything." I said, "Not with idiots like us programming them."
I predict, and I've said this before, that we're going to have bots driving us around in heavy level threes, level fours, light level fives before the vehicle actually does it.
Okay, isn't that something? All right, we're gonna hold you to that one, Pam. All right.
I really just how things are going and what I've seen in other industries and how they overlap and everything. Yeah.
Oh, great. No, exactly. So I think this is a fascinating conversation. I could just keep going on and on, but I want to be conscious of the listener. They're probably pulling into their parking lot right now. So, but I really want to thank you. I'd love to
Thank
continue
you.
this conversation. Like I told you before, I'd love
Yes,
to have you on the collision cocktail hour
definitely.
sometime. I
Thank
think
you.
this is something that collision shops need to hear. We'll do that. So thank you, Pam. And the last thanks always goes to you, the audience. Thank you for listening to Your Business, Your Life with me, Matt DiFrancesco. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. That way, when a new episode arrives, it's going to download right to your device. We're on all major platforms. We're on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, all of them. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a 5-star review, because that way we kind of move up through the charts and we can get more great guests like Pam to you guys. So with that, again, Pam, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate your time. And
Thank you.
for everybody else, take care. God bless and have a great day. Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
All information is obtained from sources deemed reliable but not guaranteed. No tax or legal advice is given nor intended. Content provided herein or on our website should not be construed as an offer for investment advice or for securities, insurance, or other investment products. Investments involve the risk of loss and are not guaranteed. Consult a qualified legal, tax, accounting, or financial professional before implementing any investments or strategy discussed here. High Lift Financial is a DBA for DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided through Cornerstone Planning Group, LLC, an independent advisory firm registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission.